Hello, it's the Buy, Sell, Love SoCal team here, and on a serious note, we need to talk about 3 different types of property value. Not about your homework.
You made me
property
think
value.
I did something wrong.
I know, almost.
That was dad voice.
Yeah.
We need
Well,
to talk.
Hey, it works.
And they are not created equal. But before we start, hit that like, hit that subscribe button so you can keep in touch with your favorite realtor team here,
It
right?
helps us out. It pushes the video out to new people so that they can learn just like you.
Okay, so 3 types of values when it comes to real estate. There is assessed value, there is appraisal value, and there is market value. Let's start with assessed. So this one probably has the most impact on you every year, over and over, because this is how the property tax assessor
How you pay the tax man.
Yep, uses the value to tax you on your home. So typically in California, this is based off the purchase price of the property with the gain of about 2% a year. It is important to note though, like we were talking about earlier actually, there is initiatives in California like Prop 19, for example, where if you go and buy a $2 million property, but you fit the criteria for Prop 19, you are disabled, you are over 55, you can transfer your property tax base where if you bought your previous house in 1960 and it's assessed value at $300,000, you can transfer that to your new property.
This is a whole other video,
Oh,
but it's so important
absolutely.
to talking about assessed value. We should do a whole video on it.
Absolutely. So the basics are assessed value is the tax basis for your property taxes every year.
And
Am I
something that's unique
tongue-tied now?
to, no, you're good. I think it's one of the things that's unique to California that we were talking about a few months ago, because there are some people who move to Texas or whatever where
Texas.
they don't, yeah, where, we're going to talk about market value later, but they adjust your tax basis on an annual basis. And so we're very fortunate actually in California. I know it's like the only time you'll hear me say that you're fortunate on your taxes in California, but the fact that your property tax and the assessed value doesn't go up and up based on
Well,
market
if you do
value.
permits and you put in a pool,
Yeah,
you trigger them to
sure.
Yeah. So anytime you do a
reassess.
permit, you can trigger a reset.
Trigger a reassessment.
Yeah.
So, okay, then appraisal value, shall we talk about
Yes,
that?
please.
Okay, so appraised value, really important factor when you're talking about your loan. So when you are buying a home and you're getting a loan and they're gonna have your loan to value ratio, it's gonna be based on what the licensed appraiser comes out and says your home is worth. This is different than market value that we're gonna talk in a minute. And we really saw that in the last few years where the market exploded and people were willing to pay over appraised value. That's market value, which we'll talk about. But appraised value is gonna be very subjective based on what an individual appraiser says.
Truly subjective.
Truly, like what one appraiser will give for a backyard can be very different from what another appraiser says. And so what they're doing is looking at, on paper, recent sales that are within so many square feet of your home and so close,
same
nearby.
utility of the home, 4 bedrooms.
Kind of depends on where you are. If you're in a more rural area, they have to go a little farther out. But if you're in like a suburban tract, they can be like half mile within 250-ish square feet. And they'll give like, if you've ever looked at an appraisal report, it'll be like, here's a comp, but I think that this one has is more upgraded, so I'm going to give it $50,000 for a condition. Again, super subjective, and I think you have a good story on this.
So I had a really crazy experience, and it was back in the day when we first started. So we had a house listed for $350,000. And we had a buyer come
In California?
I don't know, a house?
This is how long you've been doing real estate.
Right, so it was listed for $350,000, and we had the buyer come through. We accepted the offer at $350,000, and the appraiser came through and skipped one of the bedrooms.
Missed it.
Yep, and skipped part of the lot.
Oh my gosh, the
Whoops.
pie-shaped lot one.
And skipped part of the lot and appraised the property at $275,000. So obviously, like, this threw the whole process out of whack, and we wrote a rebuttal report to send back to the appraiser and said, no, this is the shape of the lot. This is all of our
missed a
information.
whole bedroom.
And you skipped a bedroom downstairs. And so obviously, well, not obviously, but that did not go in our favor. And the appraiser said, nope, I'm sticking to my guns. That is my opinion.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy.
Well, in VA loans, they have that whole Tidewater process for submitting when you disagree with the appraisal, and I've seen successful stories of people getting it overturned, which is interesting.
So this is what happened in that situation. If you recall, we went back on the market, and we got a new buyer,
New
appraiser, and it came in 10 over. Came in at 360.
Yeah. It's
because the
crazy.
new buyer came in at 360
And the appraiser
came in at
got it
360.
right.
Subjective.
And this is the thing where, again, we always say who you use matters, but truly when you're listing your home and you have an agent, you want to make sure that they are meeting the appraiser there, giving them comps to make sure that they're not missing it, to point out things.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you guys did that and he still just missed his report, but like it happens.
And then
But
not settling for that,
if
being
you
willing
have-
to fight for that.
Yeah.
If you have a listing agent who's just like, yeah, here's the super, go see it, and doesn't give comps, sometimes they miss things. You want to have them pointing out upgrades and all those things to get every
essentially
dollar of value.
The comparables they're looking at are what I tell clients, they're just paper comps. It's just comps on a piece of paper. They haven't walked that property, they haven't touched that property, which again speaks into market value, which we'll talk about in a second, but it's literally a paper comp.
Yeah.
It's just something on paper.
So, like we said, in the last couple of years, people have been very willing to
Yes.
cover differences between the appraised value and the market value.
Okay, so let's talk about market value, and this was my exact talk track when a seller would call me over the last 2 years. So I'd like to sell my house. It's 132 Any Street, and I think it's worth 500,000. Well, I'm your realtor. I'm going to look into that. I think it's worth 500,000 as well, but I think it could probably sell for 550, maybe 600, because that's what people are willing to pay for it. And that depends on a lot of different things. But when we go into listing appointments, I know we always talk to sellers about things that will actually on paper increase your value and things that will increase the marketability of your
I
property.
was just
Perception.
talking to sellers about this yesterday. I'm looking at a comp. Your home is worth $2 million. I know it's special. I know your backyard is incredible. We have to go based on what the comps are, so that we're going to price it more on appraised value. The market may drive it up because it is cool.
The
you know?
market will always tell, and that's the hard thing for a lot of sellers to understand, is the market will always tell you. I kind of have this goal someday. I would like to list a house for $1 because the house will
I have a name for you.
the house will
It's a-
sell for what it's worth.
There's
And-
an agent in Brea who does
I
that.
know, yes.
I tell people, they say, what is my house worth? And I said, what a buyer's willing to pay for it.
Right, right. And so even if it's on paper, so now this is interesting about the current market we're in. We are coming off of the peak, right? And some of the areas that we're seeing right now are softening a little bit. So when a seller calls me and they say, what is my house worth? Well, Mr. Seller, your house is worth 500. Okay, on paper, I have model match comps that are at 500. However, I think people may pay 480 or 490. That's going to be
because
your
of the
fair
nuances
market
of-
value.
It was
Yeah.
500, but 500 when interest rates were 3%, and their payment would have been significantly
Right.
lower, and there were 12 offers on every house. There's so many other
So
factors
many other nuances
there
that
So
go
where
the
it
into
could go
appraised-
either direction.
The appraised and the assessed are truly objective. Well, you know, the number is once it goes down in writing, and the fair market value, what the buyer will pay, is
subject to market
subjective.
conditions and
Yeah.
so many things.
Yeah.
Somebody thinking that, yeah, I love that there's own solar. Well, that might not add dollars to the appraisal value, but that buyer wants it, or you know, any number of things.
I think we'll need to touch on solar again later, because I think an owned solar system now in California should come with a value. And I
It
don't know
honestly
if
blows my
appraisals-
mind that appraisers don't always give you
Right?
value,
They
or
don't
not
always.
the amount that you would think, and that happens so often. We've seen pools that are incredible and cost $200,000 to put in, but
And
they
they're
get
like-
$50,000 in value.
I think that's
or-
the highest I've ever seen on a pool is 50 grand. Most of the time it's like 20 to 30.
I would say,
You
I
could
always
not
say
put a pool
25 to
in
40.
for that to
Okay,
save your life.
but a pool can kill your marketability, because what if Susie Buyer comes along and she says,
I don't want anything with
want
a pool. I have kids,
That's
or
a
I don't want the
$10,000 hole I
maintenance."
have to fill. And so then the house won't even sell, so your fair market value
So that's a
actually
whole other
drops.
thing.
Versus appraised.
Marketability versus dollar. So yes, 3 different kinds of value, but then also marketability being a whole other thing.
Right.
Whole other video.
So we hope we provided you some value today. Pun on words, get it?
it
Jokes.
took me a second, but yeah, that's funny. I need to drink more coffee.
Thank you for hanging out with us. And please, again, like, subscribe. We hope to bring you some more content. And
See you at the next listing.
See you next time.